Yo, what up everybody? My name is Chris Vargas. Welcome back to All Things Dope. And of course, Ben unfortunately isn't here with me. We had a bit of a scheduling conflict, but no worries. Let's get into it. So the biggest thing that we had coming out this week was going to be the Civil War movie. And man, the movie was awesome. I mean, some of the best things about that movie I didn't even expect to like. I know that Spider-Man was going to be a big thing, and I do like Spider-Man, but I was kind of skeptical with the Tom Holland just because he is a bit younger. I didn't know if he was really going to be able to bring it or deliver, and he does. It really is one of the highlights of the movie. Granted, he's in the movie, and this is going to be some spoilers, so if you have not seen the movie at all, beyond just the trailers, please pause this video and come back to it because I want you to be able to see the movie. I mean, it's super important that you see the movie without me spoiling it up because I'm not that guy. I don't want to be the guy that spoils your movie. So, please, if you haven't seen the movie, pause the video right now, come back to it. Gone. Alright, so, anyways, Tom Holland's his Spider-Man, he was in the movie for like 20 minutes, but those 20 minutes are solid 20 minutes of straight Spider-Man. And the Spider-Man that you want to see. The Spider-Man that really, who is true to the comics, who was true to the 90s animated series, just funny. So it is really, really cool. The other big thing that I really loved about the movie was Black Panther. Black Panther, he is, of course, played by Chadwick Boseman, and he kills all of his roles, but especially this one, he has a certain swagger about him that reminds me a lot of Bruce Lee. The way that he carries himself, not only the way that he carries himself, the way that he talks, the way that his mannerisms are, but also in the way that he fights. His fighting style is very reminiscent of Bruce Lee, and it's awesome to see that on the big screen. Of course, Iron Man and Captain America, both really huge parts of the movie, and to see kind of where they end at the end of the movie. Well, I mean, it's obviously we're talking spoilers, so I'll say it. But at the end of the movie, how they tie everything back together to the first scene of the movie, it's really awesome to be able to piece that together. Because that's one thing that I will say that at first I was like, okay, where's this going? But to be able to see it, they play it, I want to say 3 different times. So at the very beginning of the movie, the very middle of the movie, and then right at the end of the movie, we get the payoff of what was happening in that scene. And essentially, Bucky Barnes kills Howard Stark and his wife, and it really does something to you. Emotionally, it does something to you, which is one of the biggest things in this movie, is that it's emotionally driven. So you're emotionally invested into these characters. I mean, you've had 8 years of stories, 8 years of movies that we've been able to watch and really become a part of this world. Whereas, and that's kind of the weaknesses of Batman vs. Superman, right? Because we didn't have 8 years worth of movies. We didn't have 8 years worth of stories to be able to rely on. So Marvel has done an amazing job in their world building. And for the record, I'm not a DC fanboy. I'm not a Marvel fanboy. I love all things dope. And it just so happens that I really love Batman a whole lot. But that doesn't mean that I don't love Captain America or Iron Man either. That's just one of the things that comes along with being a nerd. You just have one thing and then you build all these other things around you. So for me personally, the ultimate fight right at the end, it was spectacular to say the least. It was a lot more brutal than I thought it was going to be. In fact, all of the fight scenes were a lot more brutal than I thought they were going to be. I didn't know they were going to go that hardcore, because most of the time when you see, even when they're shooting them, when they're shooting bad guys, you don't see blood splurting out or anything like that. You don't get to see any bullet holes or anything like that. You just see them shooting the guns, guys are dropping, right? Well, in this final fight scene, you are watching dudes get hit in the face several different times, and the blood is coming out. There's right at the end, you can see Captain America has blood right here on the side of his face from, just getting punched, just getting crazy torn up by Iron Man. And the same goes for, Tony Stark. You get to see Captain America really go in. There's one part where he has Tony against the wall. He's just going in on him, just racking him, just rocking him. Tony Stark says to Friday, the same thing that he says in the comic. He says, figure out his fight plan so that we can, figure out a way to take him down. So they initialize the fight plan. They study it real quick, and then he comes back, stops the shield, starts going to town on Captain America. So it is pretty awesome in that moment. There's the There's the Iron Man shield blast scene that they kind of turn the camera and kind of slow it down for a second. So it looks really cool because it really is the comic book brought to life. So in that regard, for me personally, I would give it, I'd probably say maybe like a 9.6, 9.7 as far as the movie goes, because there's probably like two things that I really didn't like. One of the things being the villain. I didn't feel like the villain was anything special. I know some people were saying he's an amazing villain, but because he was able to infiltrate and do all those things, and that's awesome, don't get me wrong. But he didn't feel, the other part that I had a problem with it is he didn't feel very comic book in nature. And I guess that's okay, right? Because it grounds the film more. Because if you've seen Baron Zemo in the comics, he's like wearing like this pink mask. So I guess that would make sense as to why they didn't go there. But I did kind of want some kind of element of that, as opposed to just some random dude on a Tuesday who got really upset. And don't get me wrong. I mean, his motivation is there, right? He lost his wife and his child, and so I mean, I would probably snap too, and but I feel like for who the character's name is, he's a Zemo, right? So I mean, he is really supposed to be a member of Hydra and really like all about that movement, and he's kind of not. So that was my only really criticism of the movie. That and the big old titles that were going across, because after a while they become kind of funny, and it's supposed to be kind of serious. So it's kind of, I know, it's kind of distracting, I would say. But really, that's it. I mean, other than that, it's a near perfect movie. I have it right there ranked with Captain America, The Winter Soldier. And I would say as a comic book trilogy, this, for me, is on the same level as the Dark Knight trilogy, with the first one being the weakest, the second one being, I would say, the strongest, and then the third being just as strong. So finishing off strong, whereas the Dark Knight, unfortunately, starts off really strong, then gets stronger, then kind of falls off. So, but as far as 3-movie trilogy goes, they're both in the same lane because they're both super amazing trilogies for me personally. But beyond all that, definitely a good movie. Go watch it. Go check it out. And I would even say go watch it in 3D. If you have the opportunity to watch it in 3D, definitely check it out in 3D. I know me and Ben were tripping out when we watched the Doctor Strange trailer, and Mads Mikkelsen starts flipping everything everywhere. Man, it looked legit. So definitely go out and watch it in 3D if you have the opportunity to. But let's get into our next topic. So our next topic that I wanted to talk to you guys about was the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers movie. They revealed their new suits, and man, I gotta say, as a fan, as a super huge fan, as a kid, I really like the suits. The suits are very reminiscent of their old suits, but have that modern flair to it. Have like a Tron, have like an Iron Man type of vibe to the suit, which to me personally makes sense, right? Because you're not gonna go out there and fight these intergalactic aliens and in a onesie. You're going to want some armor. And so I really like that idea that they have. From the looks of it, again, it looks like there's maybe like a metal shell around it or something like that. They feel kind of Iron Man and Tron-like in that sense. So I really do like that. I really hope that they took the Adi Shankar bootleg universe movie that they made and took that and ran with it. In fact, I know that they did. They had the script drafted originally for the movie, ready to go, ready to shoot, and then Adi Shankar, the guy who actually executive produced like movie like Dread, and he did the Wahlberg movie where he's a soldier. I can't remember the name. I'll pop it up in there. But anyways, he did those 2 movies, and he has been making these, like, what he calls these bootleg universe movies, where he's just making fan films, right? And he makes a bunch of different fan films, and this Mighty Morphin Power Rangers movie was a fan film that he made, and people loved it. It was a very rated R version, so if you're a child, please don't watch it. I think if it is on YouTube, I know for a fact that they've censored it out, but definitely talk to your parents before you watch that movie, because it is pretty hard R. I mean, there's some intense violent scenes in there. But what they did essentially is the fans, the adults like me, the late 20-somethings, when we watched it, we loved it because we're adults now. And we have been exposed to a lot more adult content, being able to watch movies like that. So we loved it, and it's at Lionsgate. The executive of Lionsgate saw the movie, and they said, we got to go back to the drawing board. Because their movie wasn't anything like what Adi Shankar had did. So they scrapped the script, started all over from new, So hopefully they do pull it out, man. I know that it has a lot of potential, especially off that bootleg movie. If they could just recreate that, I would be fine with that. I don't think they'll go that route. I think they want to base this more off of a younger storyline. But I would love to see something like that where it's more. I want to see more grit to it, man. I get that Power Rangers has always been super campy and stuff like that, but I think in order for it to survive as a franchise movie, it has to have an element of the real. And being a campy movie, it's not going to get you anywhere. I mean, look at the first Green Lantern movie. It was super campy, and it died straight out. And unfortunately, it just didn't work at all. But with that, I wanted to. I mean, I do hope that this movie comes out awesome, because the more dope movies that come out, everybody wins. Even back to the Batman vs Superman and Civil War numbers. Civil War made like 180 something million, but they were really hoping for 200 million. I think that if Batman vs Superman was a better movie, I think that would ultimately have pushed it over that $200 million mark, because we've already seen two huge, super iconic superheroes fight, and it was so-so. It was mixed reactions from the fans. For me personally, both movies are awesome. But if I'm watching it as just a regular fan, I don't mean the 5% that's me, right? Me representative, a guy who buys video games, comics, who watches all these movies when they come out first night. I'm talking about, your cousin and my mom. The other people that represent the 95% of the rest of the world's movie theater going audience. These are the people that they want to sell these movies to, and I think that if they add just a bit of realism to it, just make it a little bit harder. It doesn't need to be fun and rainbows and everything like that. That some movies are. I don't want to see that in the Power Rangers movies. I want to see a very grounded Power Rangers movie in the fact that they're really fighting some really hardcore aliens that are like for real trying to destroy the world. That's what I want to see. Is it the movie we'll get? It's yet to be seen. So, anyway, going into the next topic, one of the biggest things that we talked about last week was the Overwatch beta. And the Overwatch beta, man, I was super excited about it, just because my friend PC Master Race guy Justin, he was talking it up. Being a guy that's had a lot of experience with a lot of Blizzard games, and my other friend Mike, he is in the same boat. He's been playing Blizzard games for a long time, and so for me, when I played it, I don't know if maybe it was me, maybe I was overhyped, because when I sat down and I finally got the opportunity to play it, I didn't really feel like, this is totally worth $60. I felt like, man, this is a good game. Definitely, no doubt about it, a good game. But is it worth $60? Even if I can get it on sale through like Prime, is it worth $50? And each time I played the beta, I didn't feel that way. And maybe it was because I didn't have a squad. I didn't have a gang of dudes that I play with on the regular who were really interested in this beta. Did I like the gameplay? The gameplay, yes, it was fun. Visually, it was very beautiful. Looked really good. Very stylized. Visually, it's stunning. But the big issue that I had with the game is it just didn't have some of the mechanics of a first-person shooter that I love. There's no aiming down the sight. There aren't very many grenades that you can throw out and stuff like that. And those are all things that I personally use because I'm a runner gunner. So I like to chunk up grenades and take off, in the other direction, run up on guys and aim down sights. That's what I like personally. And this game didn't have a lot of that, but I did really like my character that I played with, Soldier 76, aka Old Man Cyclops. I really did like his character, and I might still buy the Funko Pop just because he looks dope. So I may do that. I don't know. But the very last thing that I wanted to talk to you guys about was one of the biggest, I would say, internet feuds of all time between Call of Duty and Battlefield 1. Battlefield 1, of course, released their trailer at the end of last week. I want to say on Friday, they released their trailer and kind of, just stole the internet's heart, because really they did a lot of things that Ben was talking about, and I got to give kudos to Ben, because the thing he was talking about doing, they did. They went back to World War I, so where it kind of all started. So that very grounded realism as far as war goes, they went back there, right? And they went back there, and it's still going to be the huge Battlefield that still 64 players, all that good stuff, but it's just going to be a little bit more contained. They said that the maps are going to be a lot smaller than they haven't been in the past, and for me personally, as a fan of Call of Duty, first and foremost, I love that, because it has a reason. It gives me a reason to want to enter into the Battlefield world, because that was always my problem with Battlefields. I felt like, man, this stuff looks really good, But if I have to spend like 3 minutes trying to find one person to kill, that's not fun to me. I want to be able to get kills like crazy. I want to rack up points like all the time. That's what I like. That's what I enjoy. So for me, originally in the original Battlefield series that DICE has made, I just felt like the maps were just insanely huge. I wasn't finding enough people to kill. But as far as the Battlefield trailer goes, man, the trailer looked awesome. I know that the Battlefield devs were giving Call of Duty a lot of slack because they said that the graphics look like 10 years old and there's no actual gameplay. Graphics-wise, I thought it looked pretty good. Ben thought it looked pretty good. We both really enjoyed the way that it looked. As far as gameplay goes, I agree. There should have been some gameplay in the trailer. The fact that there wasn't kind of sways me a little bit because I feel like when you don't show gameplay, it's like you're hiding something, like you're just, like everything's cinematic. But the same could be said for Battlefield 1 because there wasn't any gameplay in there. It's all cinematics. But anyways, guys, that's going to wrap up our show for today. I do appreciate you checking me out. Again, thank you so much for tuning in to All Things Dope.